Well, despite setting, and this is crazy, Priest, and you kind of experienced this in a little bit as well. Despite setting 18 Broncos franchise records, right, and averaging 5.5 yards per carry at your time in Denver, you got traded. What happened there? Like, what were the circumstances? How did you feel? If you were already upset about being drafted as the fourth running back, how did you feel when you had to leave Denver?
Man, like it happened so quick. It was so unexpected. Like everything happened so quick after my rookie year. I thought I had outplayed my deal, and I go in to talk to Coach Shanahan. Uh, he's like, man, I can tear up your contract right now. After this season, you're gonna be back in here. Like we're gonna have to rip it up again. Like he says you could be the first running back to get a $20 million signing bonus. I think at the time it was Curtis Martin who had got 11 or 12 million, and that was the highest. So Coach Shanahan said that in our exit meeting, and I got up, shook his hand, okay. After the season, I never even talked to him. It just so happened, I had switched agents to Drew Rosenhaus. I was at Pro Bowl. I did an interview with Adam Schefter at Pro Bowl. And, I do this interview. He's asking me about holding out and all this. I'm like, man, I don't know nothing about that. You got to talk to my agent. Like I plan to be here. I don't know anything about it. And we're all sitting at the bar and at Pro Bowl, and um, I think it was Peyton Manning to my right, Peyton Manning, Joy Porter. To my left, it was Donovan McNabb, and maybe we had one more person out there. Maybe it was Hines Ward. I'm not sure. We sitting out here drinking Mai Tais. I'm just like in awe. Like, man, I'm sitting next to Peyton Manning drinking. I'm 21, like I'm turned. And we're sitting at the bar and like ESPN, like breaking news. And I remember them like, who got in trouble? Like who done got in trouble? What's the breaking news? So everybody waiting for it to come back up. And when it pop up, the headlines like Portis request trade. So they look at me, shit. I'm looking like, who is Portis? I didn't request no trade, like so it was kind of Adam Schefter wrote Coach Shanahan books. So Shefty kind of flipped the conversation, duped me into the conversation, and that broke, and maybe 2 weeks later, a week or two later, you had combine up in Indy, you know, you had combine up in Indy, and Drew called me like, hey, they're gonna allow us to seek a trade. I'm like, what? Like still in shock, not realizing they were doing it just to see who would, like who would take the bait, like
Mhm.
if it was a market for a running back to get paid. Like that number came from Coach Shanahan, not me,
Mhm.
like Coach Shanahan set the bar for me. So once everything happened, you know, Coach Shanahan called and was like, hey man, we're willing to pay you. But we let it go too far. We was really trying to see what the market was. And, now that we see someone is willing to do it, we're willing to pay you. And if you want to go, like, cool. If not, we want you here. And it was just like me being in my feelings, like the only place I would go to was Washington. They didn't have a first round pick. They traded their first round pick the year of my draft. So that was the only team that I felt like didn't pass over. And that was the one team interested. They had Coach Gibbs coming in, and like the rest was history, and then I got traded for Champ Bailey. Like, who could say that? Like, I got traded for Champ Bailey. So just to be a part of that and have that opportunity to go to Washington, man, and kind of uh, to be able to play with Sean Taylor and Santana Moss, like that was probably the highlight of my career, along with all my other teammates. You talk about Chris Samuels and LeVar Arrington, Marcus Washington. Like I had some great teammates. Believe in Denver. Like I tell people all the time, Shannon Sharp, Rod Smith, Al Wilson, um, Brian Greasy, Eddie Mack. Like, bro, I played with Ed McCaffrey. Like
Mhm.
having that luxury, Dan Neal, Tom Nalen, like having that luxury to play with vets that were uh like that close. And to see, I thought the entire league was gonna be like that. So I get to DC, it was like, what? Like, what the? So we ended up turning it around the following year. Coach Gibbs had done an excellent job of just getting everybody to buy in, and we just had a hard-nosed, physical downhill team. Like it was like, hey, bro, I need you to run through a brick wall. No problem, I'll do it. So that was a change, but bro, it was exciting. Like that whole time, that whole era, like we had so many backs. Our backs go to the Pro Bowl now. Man, I'm fighting 4 backs in my division, let alone the rest of the league. Like, boy, who gonna come out of this division and represent the AFC? So it was a great challenge. Everybody look at it like, oh man, you only went to 2 Pro Bowls. Like, bro, I had Priest and LT in my division. I had Edge and Corey Dillon and Curtis Martin and Marshall Falk. Like, man, you know who I'm going up against. It is what it is.
I know that's right. You also mentioned a familiar name with one of your linemen, Dan Neal. Dan Neal and I, we were in college together at the University of Texas. And so Dan was the type of lineman that when you talk about getting out on the perimeter, boy, that joker could get out there quick and get on that perimeter fast, And so I like linemen like that. I don't know if your experience was the same, but man, there's a few linemen like I had, like you mentioned, Willie Rofe, Will Shields, Brian Waters, Casey Wigman, some of my offensive linemen. I know you got a few favorites, man, during your time playing.
Man, Will Shields was my favorite. Your lineman was my favorite. Will Shields and William Rowe. Bro, I used to look like, man, dog, look at the line he got, But like I said, Tom Nalen, Dan Neal, we ended up getting George Foster in the draft my second year. Like, you look back at it, like you don't realize the luxury that you had at the time because you were in it,
Yeah.
To have a Rod Smith, to have Shannon Sharp, like to have those guys, you don't realize like what you're in. And then, I left and went to Washington, got Chris Samuels. That's one of my favorite people, one of my favorite teammates as well. So it was just one of those, bro, you make do with what you got. Don't complain about what you don't have. What we got, let's make it work.
That's right.
Good stuff. All right, Clinton. It's time to get to our Mount Rushmore of RBs from your perspective. So give me your top 4 running backs all time and why. I know it's tough to cut it off at 4, but let's, yeah.
So my top 4. This is my top 4.
That's
this
right.
has nothing to do with
we're asking you. We're asking you.
They can land wherever they land.
I got you. So of course, Bo Jackson, Bo knows.
Okay.
Everybody, Bo Jackson. Barry Sanders, the best I ever seen. And then because I was a Saints fan, and he shouldn't even be in this conversation, but because I was a Saints fan in all, Dalton Hilliard was my favorite player growing up as a kid. So Dalton Hilliard was like my favorite player. And just to see what he did with the Saints, it was like, oh man, like that's Dalton Hilliard, like that's who I like. But along with Dalton Hilliard, the next one, it's hard not to go. It's hard to overlook what Marshall Falk did for the game. And people don't talk about it and give him his credit, but man, Marshall was a bad man. So to see them just saying all time or impact on my career, and Fred Taylor, that's who else. So I used to see Fred Taylor because I grew up in Gainesville. So seeing Fred Taylor in college and how fast he was, I'm like, bro, this man, like, this is a grown man, So for me, I would say that. And then that luxury I had at the University of Miami, when we remove all the people that I don't know, which those were the people that I don't know, to go, I had Frank Gore, Willis McGahee, and Edgerrin James right at the University of Miami. So they would always be on my wall,
Very special backs.
You can't take them away.
Just like any college would be lucky to have one of those.
I know that's right.
But wow, man, that's insane. And I love that you shouted out Dalton Hilliard. I respect that. I love that. That's your guy. That's
My
your
favorite
guy.
player.
That's
That
your
was my
guy.
favorite player growing up, man.
Are there any running backs in today's game that remind you a little bit of yourself? Like, do you see anybody out there kind of doing it the way you did? Maybe you influenced them and you can kind of see it.
I like some of the backs. You know, like I love, like, bro, I did not think Jacobs was gonna be that cold that with the Raiders. You know, he had something, but what he's showing in Green Bay, like, I'm a fan, you know. Of course, everyone loves what Saquon brings to the game, but you know, like looking at those guys in comparison, like who do you say they are? Like, was Saquon better than Marshall Faulk? You know, like was Christian McCaffrey better than Marshall Faulk? You know, they're good players, they're good kids, but would you swap them for what we have, you know, or what we had in our era? So, like, just as a fan, I always like to watch the young guys like Hampton, Amari Hampton out in San Diego. Like, I love to see young guys burst onto the scene and how they carry it. McNichols up in Washington now, Krosky married. Like, I'm more excited to see how these young guys develop or what they develop into instead of saying like, oh man, this is my guy because it's Saquon Barkley that's with one of the best O-lines in football and one of the best teams in football. Like, who's going to elevate their team to the next level?
Yeah, you got that right. And so you mentioned the name Marshall Faulk. You know, he really opened up the doors for a number of backs, especially the backs that were coming in with a different stature than the backs that were known in the AFC East. So we had not Marshawn Lynch, but we had Jerome Bettis, Eddie George, Fred Taylor. We talked about Fred Taylor as well. You know, incredible backs, but they were on the bigger size. But when you had Marshall Faulk come in the game and he had the ability to play inside, get on the perimeter, take a 5-yard pass and go 70 yards and have that ability to catch the ball
too. Yeah.
You know, and he had 1,000 yards receiving and 1,000 yards rushing. So, you know, definitely Marshall Faulk is one of those special backs as well, you know, that opened the door for backs that came after him that had that ability to stay in the game all 3 downs.
Yeah. And, you know, he fits in that category of game changer. Like you said, it's if you were to compare running backs of today to a Marshall Faulk impacted the game. He had a greater impact in the game. I'm not going to argue with you on that. That's for sure. Breaking news from Bet365. New customers, Priest, $5. You just bet that and you can get $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. So sign up, place a bet for $5 and get $200 in bonus bets, win or lose.
Bonus bets can be used on the spread, player props, futures, and so much more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365.
Gambling problem? Call or text 1-800-GAMBLER in Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, North Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, and Virginia. Or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. 21 plus only. 18 plus in Kentucky. Please gamble responsibly, and you must be present in Arizona, Colorado, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, and Kentucky, as well as Louisiana and select parishes. Maryland, North Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, and Virginia. $10 minimum deposit required. Terms and conditions apply. In-app only.
This has been a Playmaker production.